The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Zex Thrin of the Valdorian Empire stood before the assembled delegates. His crystalline exoskeleton caught the artificial light, casting rainbow patterns across the marble floor as he prepared to deliver what he believed would be the most magnanimous declaration in galactic history. Esteemed beings of the Council, Zex Thrin began, his voice resonating through the universal translator with practiced authority. Today marks a momentous occasion. After careful deliberation spanning 3 rotations, the Valdorian Empire, in alliance with the Kethmoran Collective and the Sierpinski Nexus, hereby formally declares our protection over the primitive species of Sol 3, known locally as humans. Murmurs of approval rippled through the chamber. The assembled aliens nodded their various appendages in what they considered profound wisdom. After all, humanity had barely mastered interplanetary travel, while the youngest civilization in the Council had been exploring the stars for over 10,000 years. These fragile carbon-based lifeforms, continued Zex Thrin, warming to his theme, clearly require our guidance and protection as they stumble through their early technological phase. We shall shield them from the dangers of the galaxy, nurture their growth, and... The massive chamber doors burst open with a resonant clang that made several delegates jump. A small delegation of humans strode in, their boots clicking against the floor with surprising authority. At their head walked Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Exploration Corps, her uniform crisp despite the long journey from Earth. "Excuse me," Captain Chen interrupted, her voice cutting through the chamber's stunned silence like a plasma blade through hull plating. "Did someone just volunteer to protect us?" Zex Thrin's compound eyes widened in what could charitably be called surprise, though several other emotions flickered across his features. Then greetings, primitive, that is, honored humans. Yes, we have magnanimously decided to extend our protection to your vulnerable species." Captain Chen exchanged glances with her team, then looked back at the assembled aliens with a slight smile that several delegates would later describe as unsettling. "That's very kind of you," she said slowly. "Just one quick question, though." Her smile widened. "From who?" The silence that followed was so complete that the chamber's environmental system seemed to pause in anticipation. Zex Thrin's crystalline structure actually creaked as he processed the question. "From who?" he repeated, his voice pitched higher than before. "Yes," Chen confirmed, pulling out a small datapad. "See, we've been monitoring galactic communications for a while now. We've cataloged every major civilization, mapped most of the trade routes, and identified all the significant military powers." She gestured casually around the chamber. "All of you, basically." Commander Vrakth of the Sierpinski Nexus, whose species prided itself on military prowess, leaned forward. "Surely you cannot mean to suggest—" "Oh, we're not suggesting anything," Chen interrupted cheerfully. "We're stating, according to our analysis, there are exactly 0 active military threats to humanity that we can't handle ourselves." The Kethmoran representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with indignation. "Impossible. Your species has barely achieved fusion propulsion. Actually," said Dr. James Okafor, Chen's science officer, stepping forward with his own datapad, "we achieved that about 50 years ago. We've been using something a bit more sophisticated for the last decade or so." He tapped his screen, and a holographic display materialized showing sleek ships with completely unknown drive signatures. What is that propulsion system?" whispered Counselor Hive Queen Zakta, her compound eyes straining to analyze the display. "We call it a quantum displacement drive," Dr. Okafor explained casually. "Borrowed some principles from your warp technology, improved the efficiency by about 4,000%, and eliminated most of the exotic matter requirements. Pretty standard human approach, really. Find something that works, then figure out how to make it work better." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates chittered, buzzed, hummed, and vocalized their disbelief in 17 different languages simultaneously. Zex Thrin raised his primary appendages for silence. "Even if this is true," he said, his voice strained, "surely you require protection from the more esoteric threats of the galaxy. The Void Wraiths, the Quantum Pirates, the Void Wraiths?" Captain Chen's eyebrows rose. "Oh, you mean those extra-dimensional entities that have been raiding shipping lanes in the outer spiral?" She pulled up another display. "Yeah, we dealt with them last month. Turns out they're vulnerable to properly modulated electromagnetic fields. We sent them a diplomatic message explaining that further raids on inhabited systems would result in their native dimension being permanently sealed. They've been very cooperative since then. And the quantum pirates? This from Counselor Thesexcat, his tentacles writhing with anxiety. Disbanded, replied Lieutenant Park, the team's military specialist. Once we demonstrated that we could predict their quantum jump coordinates and be waiting for them with superior firepower, they decided piracy wasn't a profitable career choice anymore. The silence returned, heavier this time. Finally, Elder Kithmora of the Ancient Transcendent Collective spoke, his voice carrying the weight of eons. Then, what do you want from us? Captain Chen's smile became genuinely warm. Trade partners, scientific collaboration, cultural exchange, maybe some friendly competition in the annual Galactic Sports League. Though I should warn you, humans are surprisingly good at that sort of thing. She paused, then added with a slight grin. And maybe next time you want to protect someone, you might want to ask if they actually need protecting first. As the human delegation departed, leaving behind a chamber full of thoroughly bewildered alien dignitaries, Zexthrin turned to his fellow counselors. I have a terrible suspicion, he said slowly, that we may have been thinking about this backwards. How so? Asked Vrakhth. Zexthrin's crystalline structure flickered with what his species used to express existential dread. What if the question isn't whether humanity needs our protection? He paused, watching the human ships disappear into quantum displacement. What if the question is whether we need theirs? Outside the station, Captain Chen settled into her command chair and opened a communication channel to Earth. Mission Control, this is Exploration Corps Team 7. Contact established with the Galactic Council. They offered to protect us. A pause, then Earth Control responded. Did you tell them about the Andromedan situation? Chen grinned. Not yet. I figured we'd let them get used to the idea that we don't need protecting before we mention we've been protecting them. As her ship slipped into quantum displacement, heading back toward a small blue planet that had just become a lot more interesting to the galaxy at large, Captain Chen couldn't help but chuckle. Humans, it seemed, were about to teach the galaxy a very important lesson. Never assume the new kids on the block need a babysitter. Sometimes they turn out to be the babysitter.